Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. I'm Zada Haj, Katie Foxberger, and Shirley Shakha, and we are the team behind Dana.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight at our virtual launch event, Women Lead the Region to a Sustainable Future.
We are so happy to have you with us. Stay tuned and enjoy the evening.
Hello there, and welcome to the launch of Dana Accelerator. Women lead the region to a sustainable future. Now, of course, the health and the wealth of our world will be intertwined without a doubt to ensure a successful future for everybody. And here at the launch of Dana Accelerator, we're putting the role of women at the forefront. This is an innovative project. It's full of ambition, it's full of hope, and it's already delivering on its promise. But let me step back and take a minute to recognize part of the story behind this project. And it's a tribute, actually, to a wonderful woman, Dana George Sella. She was the talented engineer and entrepreneur based in Ramallah, and she worked right across national lines and really helped support other female innovators. Sadly, she's not with us to share this great launch, as she was tragically killed in an accident last year. But her memory lives on, and this project is based on women empowerment, environmental justice, and diversity, and it will forever carry her name and her legacy. Now, Dana is an accelerator today, but there are great plans ahead. And in the future, you can expect to hear about our ambition to become a fund for women-led ventures in sustainability in the MENA region. We have a very, very busy schedule for you today, so we got to get right there. And we're really going to examine all of those great opportunities in sustainability in the MENA region. Now, first, let me welcome our first speaker and our keynote address. She's the Senior Research Analyst with UAE Food and Water Security Office. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Fatema AlMulla. Fatema.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Fatema AlMulla, and I'm here from the UAE Food and Water Security Office. I'd like to start by congratulating the Dana team on the launch of this amazing initiative. It has been our constant endeavor to encourage more participation from women in technology, business, and sustainability. And Dana brings all of these elements together. As an accelerator for women-led startups in desert tech, Dana aims to tackle issues of sustainability in sectors such as ag tech, food tech, water solutions, renewable energy, and waste management. And these are the challenges we need to address on an urgent basis to safeguard the future of our planet. Sustainability is a collective effort, and women play a critical role, particularly in agriculture. As a platform that brings women together from the MENA region and gives them resources to innovate, Dana is a potential game changer in our quest for sustainability, a step forward in the right direction. Despite several discussions centering on greater representation of women in technology, women are still underrepresented in the sector. We need more female entrepreneurs to join the innovation and tech sectors. We also need to be mindful of the fact that the efforts we make in these fields have to have a well-rounded agenda. While increasing our agricultural output is important, it is equally important to minimize waste and ensure proper distribution of our resources. The challenges of food and water security are not limited to a country or a region, but impact all of humanity. Having limited freshwater resources in the MENA region makes it imperative for us to create innovative ways to conserve water and find sustainable ways to produce our food. While we cannot challenge the geographical constraints of our region, we can use technology to overcome these constraints, and we can support women to be part of it. So to the Dana team, I'd like to say congratulations. And with that in mind, I wish you all a fruitful and pleasant event. Thank you.
And thank you, Fatema. Indeed, we're very grateful for your encouragement and indeed for all your support. And we'll be keeping in touch. I'm very happy now to welcome the co-founder of the impact investment VC, Pitango. And he is also the chairman of the Perez Initiative for Peace and Innovation. Chemi Perez joins us. Chemi?
Marhaba, salam alaikum, shalom. I'm very happy to talk to all of you at the Dana Accelerator. We are here at the Perez Center for Peace and Innovation, are 100% supporting everything that you do. We believe that the past cannot be changed. We need to leave it behind us and move into a new future, a new era. We need to leverage the things that we love with innovation, with empowering individuals, men, women, and go for diversity and inclusivity, make the world a better place by implementing new technologies, by entrepreneurship, shaping the future. The only way to do it is if we join forces, Jews and Arabs, Israelis and Palestinians, men and women. We need to take the future in our hands, believe in ourselves, believe in the potential that we have inside ourselves, and drive a change across the Middle East, making it a startup region. I believe that each and every person that is seeing this video has a great potential that needs to be discovered and need to be promoted by each and every one of you. Never stop dreaming, always believe in dreaming, and make sure that you dream big and you pursue your dreams without any hesitation. Best of luck to all the startups, the investors, the promoters, everyone who's contributing to change their reality into a better one. Thank you so much.
And Chemi, it is indeed all about the future. And thank you so much for your great words of wisdom. And indeed, good luck with all the great work that you're doing as well. Now, our opening panel will look at desert tech and sustainability. And I want to hand over now to the owner of Evoke International, who will moderate this session. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Leah Tedrow. She'll be with you shortly, so stay with us at Dana Accelerator.
Thank you so much, Eithne, for that warm welcome. Welcome to the Desert Tech and Sustainability as a Regional Endeavor panel. During this panel, we're going to explore why it's so incredibly important for regional collaboration and cross-border cooperation on environmental issues that affect us all, especially in this region, where the desert climate poses an additional challenge in terms of long-term sustainability, agri-tech, renewable energy, food security, and the ever-prevalent water challenges. These are issues that cannot be hindered by borders. These are human challenges we should be facing today for tomorrow's generation. The Dana vision is to bring playmakers from academia, civil society, governments, and the private sector together to face these obstacles head on through intelligent action that confronts the current economic status quo, creating organic disruption through unity, inclusion, and innovative sustainable solutions that have minimal environmental impact. Our panelists joining us today for this discussion are Nicole Hod Stroh, the Executive Director of Mirage Foundation Israel, Lamis Harib, the CEO and founding partner of EcoBiotech Middle East Manufacturing, Dr. Amir Grinstein, a professor of marketing at Northeastern University and VU Amsterdam and co-founder of 50/50 Startups, and Majd al Mashharawi, founder and CEO of Sunbox. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us today. Nicole, I'd like to start with you, actually. You're currently leading a transformative regional economic development process in the Negev region, as well as a variety of high-impact programs which focus on scalable civic engineering or civic engagement, community building, and economic development strategies to bring about inclusive growth. What has your experience taught you about the importance of bringing the various sectors together in addressing climate challenges, and what would this look like on a regional scale?
So good evening, everyone. How exciting. And congratulations to Dana for this amazing launch. Maybe I would like to share a few insights from my personal journey. I moved to Israel 12 years ago from Colombia, where I worked on international development, trying to bring people out of poverty and empowering communities, particularly women. So as soon as I arrived to Israel, without speaking Arabic and not much Hebrew for that matter, I was immediately connected to a women-led Bedouin organization. And that group of Bedouin women became my mentors, my Hebrew teachers, and taught me a very valuable lesson about the desert, a lesson about resilience, creativity, and courage. Because as a person who grew up in the tropics, it was very difficult for me to imagine prosperity in an arid land where, to me, everything seemed like scarcity, lack of water, lack of biodiversity, lack of people around you in the desert. But you see, there's a silver lining to scarcity, and that is precisely innovation. There's countless of research showing how scarcity is a spurs to creative problem solving. And that is something I saw throughout Israel's Negev region. So there's no secret that several years later, when asked to lead the Mirage Foundation to promote the development of the Negev, I really jumped at the opportunity. Now, how does this connect to the climate? When thinking about models for economic development for the Negev region and asking ourselves, what does the Negev has to offer to the world? The answer could not be clearer. On the one hand, as we all know, desertification has devastating effects on poverty, food security, biodiversity. The UN says that by 2025, 1.8 billion people will experience what they call absolute water scarcity. It's a very, very scary scenario. But on the other hand, the Negev for the past 50 years has been producing cutting-edge research and development on how to both combat but also adapt to the desert challenges. And it is home to several R&D centers, home to the famous precision irrigation company Netafim that works in 110 countries, and of course, Ben Gurion University and in its institutes on water and desert research. So I think the Negev region probably has the highest concentration of climate-related PhDs in the world in this. For Israel, is a vast piece of land, but for the world is a tiny piece of land, about 12,000 square kilometers, maybe the area of the Bahamas. So the question that arises, how do we connect between these researchers and entrepreneurs and multinationals and investors and policymakers at a national and international level to spur more innovation to deal with these desert challenges? And together with our partners, the Israeli Innovation Institute, the Ministry of Environmental Protection of Israel, Ben Gurion University, we established the Desert Tech Innovation Community. So first, by developing a deep understanding of the desert challenges and its unique opportunities for the development of technological solutions. And second, by slowly becoming that go-to place for the different stakeholders to connect and create synergies. And so regarding your question, how does this look like on a regional scale? I think that's probably the most exciting question. Because what I see here is the potential to create a regional integrated value chain that could be, on one hand, help promote this development of these technologies, and at the same time promote inclusive prosperity and green jobs in the region as a whole. So imagine, as a regional level, joint research programs, entrepreneurs developing that research and creating startups, large corporations scaling internationally. And the Negev could be that sandbox, literally, to test and adapt these technologies, while places like Dubai can be that springboard for these technologies to spread around the world. So, of course, initiatives like the Dana Accelerator are amazing examples of what is needed within this value chain, as it really produces the next generation of startups and women-led startups.
Well, those are all really fascinating points. And speaking of startups and what we're doing to move forward with bringing that vision into fruition, I want to bring my next question to Dr. Amir. I mean, your research interests are focused on the interface between marketing and society and public policy. So, how did this lead you into co-founding 50/50? And off the back of Nicole's personal experiences, what has your personal experience been working with Israeli and Palestinian entrepreneurs in 50/50 taught you?
Well, thank you for the opportunity and honor to be in this panel, and I'm honored to be considered with 50/50 Startup, a partner of Dana. Let me move the camera so I'll be there. Just for those who are not familiar, 50/50 Startup is a 9-month entrepreneurship program that brings together Israelis and Palestinians to develop joint and equally owned startups. And when we started this journey a few years back, the most important goal for us was to have the social impact, meaning to have people from both sides get to know the other one, build trust, create relationships, and also get top-of-the-line entrepreneurship education through a partnership with my university, Northeastern, in the Boston area, and also Israeli College of Engineering in Jerusalem. But what we realized through time is that there's a lot of business opportunities and values in bringing together people with such diverse backgrounds, right? The value of diversity for innovation, specifically for startups, is huge. And this can be a different thinking style, different connections, different skill sets. And we start to see the more mature startups out of that graduated from our programs to show the benefits of this diversity. And
I think that's really some great points that you've actually made there, and I think it's fascinating to see how many startups are out there and how those are being developed and really sort of incubated. And which speaking of that, I want to go into and speak to Majd, because she's actually done 2 startups and implemented them. So I want to move more into the implementation side of the house to see how we've gone from a vision, a startup, to actually doing it. So Majd, you developed Green Cake prior to Sunbox, and Sunbox is an affordable solar system that produces energy to alleviate the effects of the energy crisis in Gaza. How do you now see these changing regional dynamics as an opportunity for female entrepreneurs and innovation?
First, thank you so much for having me part of the launch. It's such an amazing event. It's one of really very well organized and very well chosen speakers and panelists. Regarding my 2 startups, or my 2 companies that I worked on, the first one is the Green Cake and the Sunbox. I will go back to the time when we launched the first company, the Green Cake, which was in the construction field. I honestly I've been through a lot of obstacles just for being a female in my community, working in a men-dominant society. And starting from securing finance from my university, who did not believe in the idea, and they said, if we give you money, you will get married by the end of the day and you will stop dreaming. So we prefer to give it to men. Second, working in a factory producing blocks with 9 men workers who did not follow my instructions. So we lost a lot of money in the beginning. And third thing is the society itself. When you go to the market and you convince them of your product, and they say, oh, why should we trust you? We have a lot of products produced by other men factories. Why should we come and buy your product? So now what I can say is that was in 2015. Now we are in 2021, and I'm mentoring myself I mentored myself over 20 startups led by women in my society, who said, when we saw your journey, when we witnessed the success, our families believed that we can do something big for our community. So what I wanted to say is, it was a long journey. It was tough, but it really changes a lot of things on the ground. Not only for me as a female, also for the coming female engineers and non-engineers who decided to start their own startups, and also who decided to take the journey and the risk of having their own income, their own teams, and their own companies. If you look now, if you do a quick mapping on the Palestinian market in the Gaza and the West Bank, you can see that almost I wouldn't say half of the entrepreneurs are female, but I would say that at least 50% of our startups have one female. One of the co-founders is a female, based on my experience working closely with a couple of accelerators and incubators in Palestine. This was not a reality in 2015 or 2016, but this became the syndrome in 2020 and 2021. So it's really changing so many things on the ground. It's changing how the society receives female entrepreneurs, how the people understand what we can produce on the ground. And we are not meant only to be housewives, which is not a big mistake, which is okay. Okay, I'm a housewife. I'm going to be a mom soon. But that also means that we can produce a lot of things on the ground. And this is when I always say, when I look at myself, I say, I help myself to be in such a position today, leading a solar company that operates in Palestine and outside Palestine, now in Saudi. But also it helped so many females to get the encouragement and get to be brave enough to start their own companies just by watching other women leading in these businesses. Well, I needed such a role model.
I think you make a great point, and I think everybody who's involved in these discussions tonight has been a real pioneer in in this male-dominated environments, and has really left the door open for a lot of women. And talking about entering these fields as a woman, Lamis, I want to go to you and ask you to tell us about your experience in the field of clean tech as a female entrepreneur in the UAE, and what particular challenges you faced as a woman in the field.
So good evening first, and congratulations to the Dana team for this great launch. And it's a pleasure to be with the other panelists right now. I'll just give a bit of the context on the company as well, just to whoever is wondering what clean tech even specifically is in my case. So Akabai Middle East is a manufacturer of a line of green disinfectants that are manufactured in the UAE using a patented German technology. Our line is completely natural, natural in the sense that it's also human identical. So our products are 99% water, less than 1% salt, and we don't have a chemical that's active. We actually have a physical property, which is a charge that we stabilize using the patent, and therefore we have actual stable products that can be used in the B2B sector for air, surface, water treatment especially. It's very special to have a strong, natural, high-grade disinfectant that can actually treat water and not have disinfection byproducts and not have all these extra micropollutants in our environment. And the same goes with air disinfection, surface disinfection. There's a lot of, we actually are exposed to systemic toxicity more than ever now, especially with the pandemic, not just from pollutions, but chemicals that we use. So being able to offer a natural, cost-effective, and high-grade solution that can compete with industrial solutions is really what we offer. And we are a UAE German company, so I am a co-founding partner and CEO. I'm one of a team of co-founders. But just to go back to more your question on challenges, and also just listening to Majd, it's a little hard to follow up that answer, because I think it's also important to address that being in the UAE from a society and culture where there is a lot of existing female leadership and a lot of, I would say, equality almost in the private sector is really the greatest equalizer. If your business works, it works. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman behind it in the UAE. And that is something that is in a way a privilege too. So I would not say that my challenges were being a woman or related to being a woman. My mother was someone who was a doctor, who was also a very active parent and very active in the household, and we don't have this either or mentality. So that is a side privilege of being in the UAE and being from Dubai. But at the same time, there are challenges as a business. As great as the infrastructure is in Dubai, a business is a business. Innovation and bringing an innovative idea to the market does bring its challenges. I think our biggest challenges was the fact that when we launched in around 2015 specifically, but in 2016 we were able to manufacture in the UAE. The nature of our product is very new to the UAE when laws are, for example, trying to measure water treatment by chlorine residue. So even if you have the most amazing result in water, they're still looking for the chlorine residue, which is not there. So it was just kind of lobbying shift with municipalities and showing the innovations and our case studies and creating that R&D and being able to reach the right people, and obviously working in areas that weren't as strict. So instead of just focusing on water treatment, we pivoted to veterinary, artificial lakes, things that in the UAE didn't require the strictest of disinfection registrations that required residues and certain tests. But even the market has changed a lot since the pandemic because they have been wanting to push such solutions. So it's a lot better now in 2021 than it was way back then.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of that, Lamis, I kind of want to pose a question to all of you. You've just discussed some of the obstacles and challenges. And I really want to ask all of you, what are some of the biggest obstacles you see or face every day on the ground? And what do you believe are the first steps in resolving those problems in order to move forward? So I think, Nicole, we'll start with you. I know we're running short on time, so if you guys can be as brief as possible, and then we'll move forward. But I'm just really interested to find out what you think are the next steps moving forward and what you think are some of the biggest challenges today.
So I'll keep it short. I think with the struggles that we find on the ground is startups having difficulty getting funding. Their go-to-market strategies take longer than in other sectors, and they require even more patient capital, and they often don't have access to expensive labs and testing equipment. And at the same time, we find that researchers are only focused or mainly focused on the research, and they're not really interacting with entrepreneurs, while corporations are not, and investors are not still identifying this economic potential driven from desert-related technologies. So what we're doing about this is, I would say, two main interesting initiatives that it's exciting for everyone to hear about and take and partner with us. One is that we're creating a global virtual marketplace to connect between supply and demand for desert technologies. So in this marketplace, we aim to see organizations, cities, and countries around the world listing their challenges and pain points and calling for the tech community to provide applicable solutions. And another cool initiative that we're doing, and we're actually launching it at the Mirage, at the Expo Dubai in October, is the Mirage Desert Tech Competition. So it's a competition that will look for exciting technologies. We're going to have an Israeli track, a British track, and a Dutch track. And of course, everyone's invited to join us. If you have ideas, suggestions, how you want to take part in either our marketplace or in the competition, you know where to find me.
Great. And Dr. Amir, just quickly, your thoughts on some of the biggest challenges we're facing and what we can do to address those?
Yeah, so I mentioned one challenge, which is more on the personal level, that I can see both our leadership team at 50/50 and entrepreneurs. A lot of challenges on the cross-cultural and the political issues across the border. But this can be met with patience and sensitivity and empathy, and it made me a better listener, at least. And I think we show the importance of listening to one another and collaborating when things are especially rough, when there's a violent cycle, etc. And very quickly, two opportunities moving forward. We are indeed partnering with the Dana Accelerator to allow for women founders of startups, of Israeli and Palestinian startups, to join as a next step when they graduate from our program and continue promote themselves through Dana, which is exciting. And the second opportunity that we see that I think is very important is to develop a sustainability track within our own program to address all these unique challenges that you all talked about. And we're going to do it together with two other partners, Tech to Peace and the RFI Institute. So a lot and more hope is coming.
Okay, well, we're a little short on time, but I have one last question for all of you. Basically, is that can we, with a new shift in regional dynamics, can we actually keep politics out of that, out of what we're actually trying to achieve here, and and what are some of the sort of cultural, ideological, and ingrained things that we have to overcome? So I'm just wondering if you can just talk a little bit about how you think we can really avoid politics, really use this technology to bring us together, to unite us and address a human problem. So Majd, why don't you start us off?
Well, I would be very naive if I say, yes, we can avoid politics, because politics occupies a big part of our life. Our identities as Palestinians and Israelis is political itself. So we cannot avoid it. For example, now we have a project running and our products have been stuck in the border for the past 2 months because of the war that happened in Gaza last May. So what I wanted to say is we cannot avoid it. We have to live with it. We have to live around it. We have to find our ways using access to resources. As Dr. Amir mentioned, like he partnered with 50/50 startups with Dana Accelerator to help startups in Palestine and Israel scale up as the next stage. And as Nicole mentioned, startups need funding. And of course, funding to Palestinian startups is not like the funding for the Israeli startups, and vice versa. So this is part of the political equation we have in our countries. And it's as well in the Arab countries. Like being a Palestinian in the GCC area, is a political existence, and I'm still suffering because of my identity here. So we cannot avoid it, but with the resources, with the access to resources and access to people who can support us, keep moving, that we can create the success. Avoiding is such, in my opinion, is a naive thing. Thank you.
Great. And Lamis, I just want to pose, a similar sort of question to you as well, is that, how do you think that, things like the Dana Accelerator are really helping to bring about change in the region, really helping to unite us, and what does that look like to you?
I think the main thing is I'm also with Majd. You can't just naively ignore politics in a way that's, especially in this case, unethical, in my opinion, too. But at the same time, we can't, it's very nuanced in the sense that you can't, sustainability and regional sustainability is not, it's something that's going to affect the region, whether we avoid politics or make it a political statement to not unify or not bring that. And I'm not saying this the best way, but basically that women and women with innovation, whether they're Palestinians or Israelis, should not be sacrificed, whatever your politics are. So that innovation and sustainability is for the greater good, and it's beyond any conflict or beyond any issues. And we're already interconnected, and in many ways, whether it's digital or through the actual ecosystem. So that also cannot be ignored. It's just the reality that we have, whether we choose to integrate peacefully and we use it for the greater good or not is just really the next step for us. And Dana is, in my opinion, moving through the right direction with focusing on what is actually regionally a truth that we have to move forward with.
I think that was actually very well said, Lamis. And unfortunately, we're out of time. And thank you so much. We're going to have to wrap our first panel for tonight. And I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us and sharing your incredible experiences and insights with us. We really appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us tonight. For our next portion this evening, we have the great pleasure of giving you a virtual tour of the Dana beta site at Hatzeva, Arava, a true brick and mortar facility where innovators can come and work on their proofs of concept, collaborate, and develop the ideas of tomorrow and beyond. Enjoy.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Dana beta site at Hatzeva. When a startup wants to introduce a new product, there is a lot of work to be done before that idea can reach the market. She needs to build a business plan, a company, and a strategy. She needs to find the right team, trustworthy investors, credible advisors, and much more. In the realm of desert tech, innovators must go through even more critical stages in order to adjust their product to fit the market. They need to make sure that their technology actually works to serve the needs of farmers and the industries of agriculture, food production, energy, water, and waste management. This requires proof of concept and feasibility testing, based on feedback from the field and from experienced professionals familiar with the desert climate. At our beta site, we bring startups from our cohort, as well as other strategic partners from the ecosystem, to test their product at the earliest stages. This process allows innovators to directly explore the effectiveness of their product in the field, the soil, in nurseries and on plants, irrigation systems, fresh produce, and in the hands of the farmers and food processors who will actually be using the product. Our partners working on the ground at our beta site boast expertise in seed and soil cultivation, compost, pre- and post-harvest, packaging and transportation, logistics, and produce preservation. Dana takes pride in cultivating physical spaces where these important processes take place, but it isn't just about the POC. Our beta site also allows us to showcase disruptive desert tech solutions from various ecosystems. It acts as an enabler of the desert tech community by facilitating connections, collaborative processes, brainstorming, and ideation. It emphasizes the importance of networking through hands-on experience. All of our partners throughout the region and the various sectors we work with are committed to sustainability and building a future where food security is widespread and local agriculture is a given. We are proud to announce the ongoing establishment of similar beta sites in the deserts of Abu Dhabi, Cairo, the West Bank, and Aqaba. The desert's potential and prowess unites people from across the globe as Dana looks toward a bright future of global scaling. Our vision is one that allows the desert to show us what it can do and how to benefit from its natural traits. We see the desert as an opportunity to generate new resources for the good of humanity, respecting its immense potential and taking seriously our responsibility to protect it and cultivate it for future generations. Thank you.
And how great there to really have a look at that virtual tour of Dana Beta. It really gives us a quick glimpse about the great work that we can expect and the work that's being done and what more is going on. And a big thanks to Leah there and her great opening panel, really exploring many of the challenges, but also the opportunities that lie ahead in this sector. Now, our next speaker is a huge supporter of women investing in female-led tech sustainability. She's on the Dana Advisory Board, and she's also the founder of We Act Ventures in California. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Darya Shaked. Darya.
So I'm Darya Shaked, and I'm the founder of We Act Ventures. It's a fund of funds focused on the best women-led venture capital funds. I get allocations and I give access to family offices and high net worth individuals who usually don't get access to the best venture capital funds, and those have to be the ones that have diversity within their core founders. So only women-led venture capital funds. I now manage 7 portfolio funds, all led by the best women in the industry. We also invest alongside those funds. So I do LP investing and direct investing. And I also help women entrepreneurs connect to those VCs and others and help them raise money, which is maybe one of the most crucial points of growing a business, being able to raise money in a very homogeneous industry. So I'll quote a famous venture capitalist investor, a male investor that I met in Silicon Valley. And he said, by the time an entrepreneur reaches my desk and pitches to me, there is a very significant difference between a female entrepreneur and a male entrepreneur, because the journey that a female entrepreneur had to go through to reach my desk is so much longer and so much harder that by the time she gets to my desk, she's wiser, more experienced, more determined, just generally a better entrepreneur. And so it just goes to show you that it's not a level playing field. Women not only have to beat the challenges of the culture that they came from, being able to take risks, believe in themselves, finding a challenge and deciding you're the one who can create the solution, building it, recruiting people around it, and then going and raising money for it is much harder when you do it in a culture and in an industry that does not really believe in your ability to reach that goal. So there are many ways to tackle the problem. It starts with education and how parents treat their children, and it ends with diversifying the investment industry. And everything in between, role models, support groups, and accelerators like what you're doing. When I decided to take the first delegations of female entrepreneurs to Silicon Valley, there was a lot of antagonism, mostly from men, but not only, saying that I'm actually harming the cause. If I say that women need dedicated support to grow their business, I'm actually saying they're weaker. And funny enough, women did not see it that way. They welcomed the opportunity to join other women. They hardly knew each other. They didn't even know that there are other women in their position trying to lead a new product, a new startup, and facing some of the same problems. So first of all, I will quote researches from Boston Consulting Groups and others that shows that women raise less, spend less, much more efficient, and return twice as much funding returns to their investors in comparison to male founders. Congratulations. I'm super excited to be on your advisory board. I think the more amazing group of teams and accelerators and investors, and we're all part of one ecosystem that strives to create an equal opportunity tech industry. And together, we're going to be able to reach that goal much faster and for the benefit of everyone. So I'm here for you, and congratulations and Godspeed.
And Darya, thank you so much. Thank you for your great wishes. And indeed, thank you for sharing your story too. I think it can be very tough out there. You've made that very clear, but clearly what you're doing is driving us all in the right direction. So we'll take great inspiration from that. Now, when we come back, Leah Tedrow will join us again, where she'll be looking deeper just at how women can play a vital role in the MENA tech transformation. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our second panel on the role of women in the transformation of the MENA tech ecosystem. During this panel, our discussions will focus on the importance of supporting women entrepreneurs and leaders to create a more diverse, sustainable, and stable regional economy, while emphasizing the significance of women-led initiatives in inculcating that change. This speaks directly to the heart of the Dana Accelerator, who believe that investing in and supporting women to build their own ventures is not only the right move strategically, but brings new perspectives and abilities into the arena that our global economy so desperately needs. The UAE's increased and continued focus on women empowerment in business should not only be applauded, but replicated. As of 2015, women have occupied 66% of public sector jobs in the UAE, one of the highest proportions worldwide. 30% occupy senior leadership positions associated with decision-making roles, and there are currently over 23,000 women employers in the UAE, of which I am happy to be one of those women. And women business owners account for 10% of the total private sector in the UAE, running projects worth more than 40 billion dirhams and constitute 15% of the members of the boards of directors of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And there are also 9 female ministers in the UAE government. Pretty impressive numbers. So naturally, the UAE was the perfect fit to become the home of the Dana Accelerator, where innovation, inclusion, and empowerment unite for the greater good of all. So without further ado, let's get started. On our panel today, we have Bina Khan, co-founder of Summit Venture Partners Dubai, Elah Alkalay, VP for Business Development and Chairperson of IBI Mutual Funds, Nivine Sandouka, Director of Hakokna Jerusalem, Sophia Swire, co-founder of Jedi Venture Capital London, and Roberto Croci, Managing Director for Microsoft for Startups Dubai. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for joining us today to discuss these important issues. So for my first question, I'd like to start with Elah. Elah, you've worked in the capital market for over 25 years, founded IBI's Women Investment Forum. What do you believe is the role of women in the changing regional dynamics as the tech ecosystem becomes increasingly multinational and important in the Middle East?
I think this is actually a very simple answer. I think that we have a mighty task in front of us. The task of sustainable development. Sustainable development is very different from the development that has brought us to where we stand. And I will state the obvious and say that if you want to reach a different result, you can't keep doing what you have been doing. So tech is a major force paving the road for sustainable development and accomplishing all 17 UN SDGs. But without all human talent, without inclusion and diversity, without different voices, without women, we will not stand up to that challenge. So women have to be a major part of both doing things a different way and of adding human talent that is lacking from the current environment. So
that's fantastic. I think that adding that diversity is really key, is having those new perspectives, the diversity, and just having everyone have a unique and their own voice. Now, Nivine, speaking of this, you have been a leader in trying to achieve social justice, peace, and gender equity. What has your experience working with international organizations taught you about the role of women in regional collaborations?
Yeah. So I think before we start talking about the role of women in regional cooperations, it's really important for us to highlight the environment where women actually live. and the difficulties or challenges they face and opportunities which exist as well. So let's remember hearing Majd speaking, for example, in the previous panel, that most women in the Middle East live in a patriarchal, conservative, traditional society. And in most cases, women need to put as much effort and even much more effort to reach the same opportunity as their peer men as well. And let us remember also in some specific countries, like in Palestine, for example, women also face political violence, and not only issues like violence against women, inequality, etc. While at the same time, if we look at statistics, it shows us that in most Arab states in the Middle East, there are more women than men pursuing university degree, and only 1 in 5 working age women in the Middle East and North Africa region has a job or is actively looking for one. According to 2019 World Bank report, women make up only 21% of the labor force and only contribute 18% to MENA's GDP. Now, taking all of this information and looking at what international organizations actually do. International organizations focus on very specific issues in each country, and they mainly focus on issues of rights. So working, for example, with women on violence against women, or working on the traditional approach to economic empowerment of women. One of the main challenges is also not working with men in this case, like expecting change to happen without working with men, or only working with women in these specific traditional fields. If we're talking about the economic empowerment itself, it's actually very localized, in a sense that basically they might be working only on agricultural economic empowerment in that sense, but they still lack connecting these women to regional markets, to stakeholders, to investors, even to local markets. But there was one very good example where the women themselves, younger entrepreneurs, had ideas of startups. And this is where the idea or the opportunity exists for international organizations to create hubs or accelerators for those women-led startups. There was a need by the women themselves to say, okay, it's not enough to give us X amount of money, which was very small, to start to begin our startup and to grow. But there is a need to connect with investors. There's a need to connect us with regional actors as well. And there is also a need for us to kind of learn from others who are doing the same thing. So imagine if this happens when you actually start empowering themselves. I'm taking Majd as a very good example, and thank you, Majd, for in the previous panel for explaining the difficulties that she faced. But look at Majd right now. So Majd right now is economically contributing to the GDP. She has she's leading Sunbox, which is, I assume, a big company by now. Also, she is meeting a service specifically in Gaza, a much needed service around electricity. There's a need, and her company is meeting that need. But at the same time, she's also creating social change. So we're actually doing like another way around, where through economic empowerment and regional connections, we are creating social change and economic change at the same time, as well as creating agents of change and role models.
I think the ripple effect you're talking about in women leading the way and then that leading to the other socioeconomic development issues is really important. And going back to what you were talking about earlier about the opportunities available based on geography and the various different issues, I want to go to Bina on that line. You're a startup angel investor with experience in the Middle East, Silicon Valley, and New York, which is a wide gambit of geographical areas. As a female founder and investor, what are some of the challenges facing women specifically in the MENA Tech ecosystem, and how can platforms like Dana help to address them?
Well, I think a lot of these have already been touched on before, but as we know, this tech industry is very highly competitive in a male-dominated market. And I would say the number one is the challenge is that the rigidly defined family-driven role in this region and the cultural attitudes that exist about a woman's role to be a housewife, to be a mom primarily, and not to go out and be a breadwinner or an innovator or a creator or an entrepreneur. We have inadequate access to capital. All around, that's a problem that is getting better, but especially for women. And what banks and lenders don't realize that women are actually better at repaying loans than their male counterparts. Women also lack the autonomy, the finance, and the skills necessary to grow and expand companies. And there's a lack of a supportive network, which then minimizes a woman's self-confidence, and it keeps a woman further in her shell and doesn't allow her to come out of it. We also have this belief that there's going to be someone else who will come along and fix this for all of us and clear the path and make it for us. And what we don't realize is we have to make our own path first. And this pandemic as well has actually exacerbated all the issues for women in the industry where the representation is already a problem. So women are further struggling to keep on top of their home, family life, and work commitments, and everything has just become one. It's become all enmeshed with each other.
Well, it's fascinating that you're talking about the funding issue for women. And I was really shocked recently when I found out that only 13% of investments go to women of funding worldwide, not just in this region. And that is quite a shocking number. And moving in that direction, Sophia, you've spent your career empowering women and girls in the region through education and enterprise opportunity. And your new VC firm, JEDI, is actually addressing that, which is an acronym for Gender, Equity, Diversity Investments. So why is gender equity so important in your views, especially in the context of business and technology?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's an enormous privilege to be part of such a distinguished panel. And I must just say how incredibly inspired I was to meet Zada for the first time in Jerusalem last year. And I'm so proud that this is the incredible achievement that she's managed to pull off in a very short period of time. So like the other panelists, I passionately believe that if humanity, if the planet is to have a future, we need to engage the power of the private sector, and we need to engage the talent and the expertise of all of humanity, not just the 49% who are getting funded at the moment. I believe it's the only way we can secure a return to full human flourishing and the health and sustainability of our living planet. Some of the statistics have already been mentioned. In terms of private equity and venture capital funding, it's actually less than 13%. It was pushing up to 3%. It's now something like 2.3%. And I believe that COVID has put the advances for women back by about 5 years for a multitude of reasons, some of which have been mentioned today. So I think, for me, what motivates me to engage in female founders is a recognition that not all of the talent, not all of the expertise, and not all the great ideas belong to men. And we really, as women who have a track record and a background of building businesses, I think we have, in a way, a responsibility to help empower other younger women coming up behind us and share our expertise, share our network. Somebody earlier was talking about the importance of networks. And in Britain, we have the Old Boys Network, which sort of replicates the privilege, you can say, and helps to prolong and preserve a systemic bias towards privileged white men who keep getting funded more than others do. So I'm a great believer in collaboration and network, and at JEDI we've built a 200-person global network of change makers, CEOs, pioneers, thought leaders, AI, blockchain specialists, and so on. And we intend to sort of tap into that in a very sort of feminine and collaborative way and really accelerate the companies that we're looking to back. But the other point that I wanted to make is that when female-led businesses are funded, they're actually more capital efficient. They return more on capital, 31 cents on the dollar for all male-founded teams versus 78 cents on the dollar for female-founded teams or diverse teams. They tend to be more stable, more sustainable. They're more sort of cognizant of ESG considerations. And what's more, they exit faster. So they're actually a better, more solid, more exciting, more profitable investment in our view. And these are the facts. not according to me, but according to McKinsey and Ernst & Young and PitchBook and PricewaterhouseCoopers and other great luminaries and savants.
That's amazing. I mean, those are some pretty stunning statistics when you think about it, and especially for the tech industry at large, which is where a lot of the investment is going in these days. And Roberto, you're at the heart of the tech industry here in Dubai as the managing director for Microsoft for Startups. Where do you see the role of women in the rapidly changing Middle East tech economy, and why?
Look, first of all, it's a huge privilege being part of this panel, and thank you, Bina, Elah, Nivine, and Sophia for sharing great perspective. As you were saying, Leah, being here at the core of tech, right? So I've been working with Google before and now with Microsoft. What I can say is women have a crucial role in developing tech and in making sure that the tech industry is going to be more diverse and inclusive. Think about it. There is a lot of bias in the way, for example, even products are built, right? And that can only increase. Think about the increasing role of artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these algorithms. Imagine the damage if these products, these algorithms are built with all that bias in it, with just, in a male-dominated tech where are only male engineers and maybe only white male engineers that are, building this algorithm. And this algorithm can teach other algorithms to build new pieces of tech. Imagine how scaled the damage can be exponentially if we allow this and if we don't build for everyone, if we're not inclusive of all different perspectives. So definitely women can play a crucial role when it comes to technology. They can play a role, as someone was saying before, women, and the data is there, the facts are there. Women are more efficient, and the return on investment, the return on exit, sometimes if we talk about female founders, are much higher than men, right? So what we can do is we need to enable and empower women to take more responsibilities and roles within tech, whether it's in development, building products, whether it's in leadership positions. That's a fact. One area where we have seen the struggle, it comes with confidence, right? Whereas on one hand, male are in general able to fake it better, because it comes like, okay, even if you don't know something, male usually tend to say, yes, I know about that, and they take ownership and responsibility on that. Sometimes women don't have necessarily that confidence in believing in their potential, right? So they ask more questions maybe, but when they are put in the role, you see that the results are even better. So one thing that definitely the tech industry needs to be better at is giving visibility to more stories of how remarkable women are in what they're doing. Because even in the UAE, as you said, we have beautiful stories. We have 9 ministers as well that are women in the government, and so on and so forth. But for example, when it comes to the startup ecosystem, usually we tend to tell the story of the 3-4 usual suspects that have done an amazing job. But I can tell you, we already have way more stories, wonderful women that build their own ventures here, that were able to raise money, and we need to give more visibility to that. So what we are trying to do on our side is to give that visibility, because that visibility, telling their stories, it helps to increase the confidence, help to raise awareness about where the challenges that women are facing in the region and globally, in raising funds, in building their ventures, in getting access to opportunities that male have, already ahead of them, straightforward. And this is the role that we can play by giving that visibility, by increasing that confidence, by making sure that there is equal access. When building products, when building tech, we definitely need to make sure we're building for everyone. And the way to build for everyone is having this diversity of people that are building the products, that are developing the technology, that are having a responsibility in making decisions on how the teams should be set, how the products should be built, and so on and so forth. So we see this increasingly happening in the regional ecosystem. I can tell at Microsoft, for example, we have plenty of women in different leadership roles and in teams in tech. In my team, our technical person is a great woman that is having a large impact across the startups that are in our community. So definitely we need to allow women to have these opportunities and express themselves, and tell how remarkable they are, and the achievements that they are getting. And we don't need to be shy in telling those stories. We need to do more of that.
Well, Roberto, after listening to you speak and listening to Sophia, it really seems like women are the obvious choice when it comes to, investing and into backing. When you look at the statistics, when you look at how the dynamics change on a team, when you add women to it, when you have that inclusivity and that diversity, it seems to be, the winning thing. So this seems to be a very obvious choice for me. And speaking of that, Elah, I wanted to go to you, and speaking from your own experience, on those notes, what do you feel are some of the greatest challenges facing entrepreneurs and innovators during these changing regional dynamics? Things are shifting, things are moving. So your thoughts?
Okay, so, we preach for diversity, but we as humans are actually attuned to homogeneity. We really dislike diversity. We're very comfortable when surrounded with people that are like us, and the greater the difference, the more uncomfortable we become with other people. So, there's a famous TED Talk with Madeleine Albright where she describes telling the UN Committee for Peace and Security, when she sat as head of that table, that she feels they should do something. And getting just blank faces from everyone around the table until the word feel was replaced with the word think. So it sounds kind of ridiculous, but you can think of extreme examples, such as people used to hearing music or the differences between Arabs and Jews in Israel. The larger the difference, the more difficult diversity actually becomes for us. There are so many unconscious biases that are strong and that are ignited in the way that we think and the way that we make decisions. And they're ignited by very simple cues, even by the word feel instead of the word think. And the worst thing about these unconscious biases is that they are unconscious. We're not aware of them. And we're not, it's as if something is blocking our vision and we just can't see it. So I think our challenge is in becoming conscious. Our challenge is learning how to listen to new and different music, to new and different words, different ways of saying things. And our challenge is to step out of our comfort zone, and that's a very, very difficult thing to do. So it's difficult, but it is achievable, as we well know. At least for all of us, it was, I think, achieved at one point or another. So I think that's both a major challenge and what we really need to focus on to have some success.
Well, I think it's really important to be aware and then just to be open to a mindset change. And I think by having these discussions and seeing women take these roles, I think that will help us to change the mindset because it just makes us aware of things more prevalently. Now, Nivine, I wanted to speak to you about how you've personally experienced women as agents of change on that topic of being involved, and if you can give us an example of that.
Sure, thank you. Basically, I've worked with international organizations in the field of women empowerment and gender mainstreaming ever since 2012, maybe. And it's always true that when women were empowered and women became the agents of change, they sought solutions to challenges, not only to personal challenges, but more to their families and even wider to their own society. And it also shows their priorities are different. So when women actually have let us say, an income, or they are empowered to be decision makers, their priorities are much different from that of men. They consider more the education of their family. They consider more the well-being and the economic well-being of their family rather than personal needs. At the same time, when women are empowered agents of change, they actually show or have the opportunity to show their negotiation skills. And women naturally, because they grew up, in an environment where they needed to negotiate all the time with their families. So they when they're offered this opportunity to be agents of change, this also negotiation skills come to the table, which means that we are going to have better negotiators, especially if there is a negotiation going on for the conflict. And something that also my esteemed colleagues spoke about in this panel is networks. We as women, we also tend to network together all the time. We tap in different resources as we become agents of change. We support each other. We also create these networks for other women as well. If there's a good example, I can speak of for example, of women that I heard of that they are economically empowered, but at the same time they started creating those hubs, let us say, where they can also support other women to develop their businesses and their startups. For me personally, I can say that when there's a certain level of a skill set, when there is a certain level of economic security, when there is a certain level of networking, you are able to break the glass ceiling, let us say, the ceiling that actually exists, but we always don't seem to break it. But once you become an agent of change, you actually break it. And for me, that breaking of the glass ceiling was basically also to be engaged more in the political work as well, becoming an agent of peace myself, So it's I think this is basically what it means to be experiencing women as agents of change.
Well, it's funny that you should mention the negotiating. I was recently talking to a friend of mine, and she said, listen, I have to negotiate with a 2-year-old every single day, and I do it successfully. She goes, going into the boardroom is super easy after that. So, but Bina, I wanted to say, what do you see as some of the greatest opportunities for women and young innovators with the new regional collaborations that have now opened up? And in particular, what are you looking for in female startups that make you want to invest? And I think a lot of people will be very interested in this answer.
But there's a growing number of incubators and accelerators, similar to Dana, popping up all over the MENA region. And I think just becoming a part of them will be absolutely tremendous in helping creating opportunities. And through those accelerators and incubators, they will be able to partner up with government authorities when it comes to social innovation, especially. The government, especially in the UAE, is really starting to diversify its representation by bringing in experts from around the world, especially females. And I think it's a great way to sync up with them and link with them for social innovation and just leadership, whether it's mentoring or partnering with them, whatever that may be. Now, when it comes to startups that I want to invest in as an angel investor myself and, global, I think for me, it's the female has to have had more failures than successes. Failures develop so many more needed characteristics such as resilience, which come with time and practice, and also strength, mental strength, and just resiliency. Also, the leader shows up with her pitch as the most confident and boastful version of herself. She's driven, empathetic, she's assertive, and visionary. Investors want a leader who can communicate well and isn't overpowered. We don't want someone who can be trampled over. She knows how to speak her mind and stand up for what she believes in. They make great presenters in the boardroom. And then also they pay it forward, right? They create women-empowered workplaces. The founder's path should involve mentoring of some sort and encouraging other women who seek to rise up in the ranks of authority. The team, they've also built a team that has mapped out and plotted a course of action for their vision. And someone who is not risk averse. We don't want someone who will be taking the safest path, but they know how to weigh the risk and reward. And I think also one of the most important is they don't have a problem asking for help and taking advice taking advice and taking help. They recognize they're not experts in everything, and they also don't need to become an expert in everything. It's okay to not wear 100 hats and be the expert in each one of them. It's okay to go out and hire a professional who knows more than you are.
I think your point about failure is a really interesting point. I had a mentor once say to me, I can't teach you a lot about success, but I can teach you and you will learn a lot about failure. So I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. And looking into the economic development, once these startups are out in the world, I want to go to Sophia, and speaking of the importance of economic development in regions of fragmentation and conflict. So can you tell us how you envision women in tech as a tool for prosperity in the Middle East and more broadly the region?
Absolutely. So I've been working really most of my career in conflict zones in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nepal when it was in a state of civil war, civil unrest. And for me, nothing stops a bullet faster than a job. I believe that private sector development and economic development is absolutely key to the stability of any region. Of course, my heart is breaking for Afghanistan at the moment. I've been working there a great deal in the last 10 years. And I'll give you an example, a little story of this incredible woman, a war widow called Khala Zainab, whom we put through our training project. We trained her in digital literacy. We gave her a website. We encouraged her and showed her how to sell her jewelry internationally. We trained her in trainer of trainer skills so that she went on and trained another several hundred women in her village. And at the end of the day, she was employing more than 2,000 people manufacturing these incredible beaded necklaces and bracelets. She's one of the founders of the Ayenda Jewelry Cooperative. Khala Zainab was illiterate, but she took to technology like a duck to water. And she's a shining example of what you can do in terms of economic development by investing in women of all levels of skill and education. So in terms of people's understanding of the role of women in the Middle East, I think in the West we greatly underestimate the strength and power and skills of Muslim women in particular. I don't know if you know this, but Özlem Türeci is the Turkish-born immigrant who developed the Pfizer vaccine with her husband. There's no question that women throughout the world are hitting it out of the ballpark in science, technology, engineering, education, and healthcare already. And you know, from a purely investment perspective, if you wish to be a prosperous investor, then you should be backing women because women are female founders are probably the biggest overlooked investment opportunity on the planet today. And ultimately, a gender balanced world is a better world, not just for women, but for all of us.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And yes, it is very heartbreaking to see what's going on in Afghanistan. You and I have spoken about that prior to this, but I do have a question for all of you of why are collaborations between the private sector and an organization like Dana so key for the economic development in the region, especially in regards to women entrepreneurs? And I'll start with you first, Roberto.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, first of all, I would say this collaboration is important because it always boils down to people, right? So if you speak with Zada, Katie, Shirley, and Dana, you understand what is the motivation and the passion behind what they are doing. So and ultimately is people and the quality of the people, the founding team, and the motivation and the passion that is behind the people that drives the impact of this initiative. So number one thing I would say is what Dana is setting as their vision and mission is something that can potentially have a big impact across this region. Also, the importance of the collaboration is because there is a unique moment in time right now in history where this collaboration and openness that we see across the region is a real message of hope, and there is a real commitment here to diversify economy, to invest into and retain talent, and build a more connected ecosystem, right? So the indicators, the opportunity is here to stay, and partnership like the ones with private sector and Dana are extremely important because this is where an ecosystem starts being created, right? It's about giving before taking. It's about putting together people that have the same alignment in terms of values, this human-centered approach, this openness to inclusion, diversity, to build together something that can have an impact on the economy and can contribute to diversify the economy, but also look at building new ventures that have impact and purpose as probably the guiding principles, right? So the pandemic accelerated or made visible some of the societal challenges that we are all facing. And marrying this with the considerations that the panelists and everyone shared before around how women can contribute to this with the efficiency and the courage of their decision and the experience they can bring on the table, and many other characteristics. So this is where this partnership can turn into successful successful collaboration and enabling that support system that needs to be fully available in order to allow entrepreneurs and founders to find the right level of support and resources that they need, even if they fail, then to tap into the resources that are available in the ecosystem to then keep going, right? And maybe have that experience funding another opportunity or another startup. So we need to build that. So these partnerships are definitely key to build a stronger ecosystem. We need to go beyond diversity and inclusion probably and talk about belonging and talk about building the thing that we say, for example, in our organization about psychological safety, right? So allowing an environment where everybody can express themselves, bring their own self to work, and where everyone has equal opportunity, and build again products and partnership where everybody can thrive. So we are totally supportive of these sort of partnerships, and we are happy to have the launch of Dana Accelerator here in the region.
Thank you so much, Roberto. And we're running short on time, so I have one last question, and I will direct this towards Nivine. Dana has an inclusive approach that brings women to the forefront. Do you believe that this is a good approach, and is it effective?
Yeah, I think I answered this I touched base on it in my the first question, is that I do believe it's very effective, because it's basically you are kind of what we say achieving two different objectives at the same time. One objective is by empowering women, and by empowering women, you're creating role models, and these role models are going to change the society. It's taking it beyond just talking about rights. It's actually doing something, and by creating those role models, the society is going to be encouraged to take away some of those barriers that they put for women to reach the equal opportunity. And at the same time, once women start, being more economically involved and more economically empowered, that's when we're going to see an elevated economy, an increased GDP in general. So definitely, yes, it's a very effective approach.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, sadly, that is all the time that we have for our panel discussion this evening. Thank you so much for all of our panelists for joining us around the world and sharing your wealth of experience and extraordinary insights into the challenges we face today and the steps we need to start taking to address them. I'm now going to turn you over to Eithne for our next and final segment with the women behind Dana. That's it for me tonight. Good night, and thank you very much.
And Leah, thank you so much for that great panel. Really, some tremendous content there. And really, I think from the guests in that panel, and indeed from all of our guests today, we can really feel the focus and the passion and the sort of the direction to really accelerate investment in a sustainable future around the world, but particularly here in the MENA region, and the importance of that. So I think, for the last while, we've really listened to, amazing content, creative content, great diverse opinions from so many people. Dana is fresh, it's new, and really in one short year, you can see the tremendous progress that they've made and the great support that they have. So right now it's my pleasure to welcome the team behind Dana Accelerator and have you meet them. So I'd like to introduce you to our dynamic trio here. Zada Haj is the CEO. Great to see you. Thanks for being with us. The Markets Director in the UAE is Katie Waxberger, and Shirley Shahar is the Business Development Director. So here they are. Ladies, well done. What an incredible project you put together in such a short time. So let me start with you, Katie. Just bring us up to date on the purpose and the real focus for Dana.
Thank you so much, Eithne. And wow, this is so exciting. Thank you, everyone who's attended and has stuck with us until the end. It's just such an honor to have people like you behind us and supporting us. So, as many of you know, Dana is an accelerator for women-led startups based in ADGM at Hub 71. And we work with startups in the realm of desert tech, which includes agri-tech, food tech, water solutions, renewable energy, and waste management. And we are so proud to already be working with our first cohort of 5 startups from the UAE, Israel, and Palestine. We chose to begin with an accelerator when we realized that there's so much work to also be done in the funding side of things, because when it comes to markets like the MENA region and when it comes to sectors like desert tech, there's a very important need to have acceleration and hands-on work with the startups in addition to the funding. And that's something that was brought up here tonight. Nivine mentioned it, giving the funding to startups in developing markets isn't enough. There really needs to be engagement with them. And the Middle East is a great example of a market where there's massive potential, there's incredible talent, huge population, which is becoming more and more educated by the year. And when it comes to agricultural sectors and food production, we see that there are some countries in this region that almost 1/3 of their GDP is actually based on agriculture. So there's so much work to be done. There's huge demand for cutting edge technological solutions that will reduce food waste and give these nations more tools that they need to create more food security internally. And because of the fact that these are such new ecosystems and there really is still a relatively low risk investment culture, and there still is a lot of challenges, practical bureaucratic challenges to becoming a startup in this region, there's a serious necessity to have an acceleration program connected to any kind of funding that's coming in to startups from the region. And we see that some of the most successful VCs in the Middle East have acceleration programs and hands-on work with the startups. It's absolutely critical. So we've decided with Dana to start with the accelerator to prove that we, us and our network, we really know how to work with the startups. We know how to select them according to their ability to scale regionally. We know how to identify the startups that have great commercial potential for this region specifically. And when it comes to the sectors that we work with, the desert tech sector, the agri-tech, the food tech, renewables, there's a lot of hands-on work that needs to be done with POC and with feasibility testing. So funding isn't enough. We really chose to build Dana, the vision of which is based on several different approaches to ecosystem enabling. And we're starting with the accelerator to put the startups at the center and to put the female founders at the center.
And, I just look at that and it's tremendous plans there, really ambitious plans. Shirley, if I might ask you, just looking at what Katie's saying there, how are you actually beginning to make this happen? Because, well done, it is happening.
It is, and really ambitious, but I have to say that we had a few challenges at the beginning of our program, and we made quite a success. Just look at this event. It's amazing that all these partners and collaborators came along, and the viewers, of course, and put this amazing energy with us. So we have a plan. We have 3 approaches that we need to build upon. First of all, is the startups. We have a great deal flow, as Katie mentioned. We have 5 startups, amazing ones, with amazing leaders, women leaders, and we are waking each morning for them and make sure that this is the job that we need to focus on. We need to make the startups build a strong product, to have a good POC, make sure that they commercialize in the MENA region and beyond, and investment, of course, it's super important. Having said that, we still need to work with the ecosystem and to work for the ecosystem. We do feel responsible for the desert tech ecosystem, and we have our ways to establish a good one there. We have our R&D center in Hatzeva, as you saw, in Israel, but it is only one of many. We are planning to have R&D centers and innovation hub in UAE, in Cairo, in the West Bank and Jordan. And all these should happen in the next 2 years. And we think that these anchors, these hubs of innovation, would be a gathering for all the ecosystem around them. So we'll have the major playmakers as investors, as startups, of and innovators, of course, as academia and researchers, and of course as corporate, because corporates are major playmakers in the hubs that we build. And all these should be forced, like in our logo. It's all small stars that will shine together and make the big ecosystem shine, even in better synergy. And last but not least, we need investment, and we need to make sure that the investment will go to the right places and to women. But for that, I will let you talk to Zada, our CEO.
And so far, indeed, it's great that you've brought so many people together. And I think, we can feel and see that tremendous support that's there with all of the people you have. But Zada, we also heard a lot about the challenges, in the region. If I can ask you as an Arab Muslim woman, how do you envision the future of this region when it comes to equality and sustainability? And really, where does Dana fit into this?
So my vision for this region is not only because I'm Muslim or I'm Arab. My vision is because I'm a human being who wants to live in a region that has prosperity and innovation and access to that innovation and funding and the know-how for everyone. Dana's vision is to give this opportunity for everyone, not only for Muslim women and not only for Christian women, Black or white. We are looking to make a change in this region. We are starting with the accelerator, continuing with the Angel Accelerator, continuing with the big vision of the Dana Capital. And that's how we are going to promote and to invest in women, no matter where they are from and what background they came from.
So I want to talk to you about the capital in a few minutes, but I'll come back to that. Before I do, Katie, you're very much the go-to person in this region. Talk to us about why the UAE is actually so important as a base right now.
So the UAE was a natural decision. When we started to put this idea together, it was obvious that we were going to come to the Emirates because the UAE has demonstrated its dedication to the values of tolerance, of women empowerment, of innovation, and regional collaboration, not simply through discourse and through statements, but through concrete actions in the realm of economic regulations and policy. We see the incredible women leaders of this region in various ministries, on the boards of international companies, and throughout academia and various other sectors. So it was obvious that here in the UAE, there's so much potential for what we're trying to do, and there's clearly, so many people who are pushing for this kind of agenda here, and for this kind of support for female founders and women to take a leading role in the private sector. And additionally, it's really positioned itself as a hub for the region generally. If we look at the successful startups that have exited or that have made it big here in this region, they all are based to some degree in the UAE, whether it's as their headquarters or whether it's in some other way. And so we want to be able to offer our startups from around the region. We work with startups from countries all over the region, and it's very important for us that our work and the technology that we're bringing and the know-how that we're bringing is based in a central, neutral location where everyone can really benefit. And as Zada spoke about, our vision is really to bring equality to the ecosystem and to inculcate our values of equal opportunity through innovation. And the UAE is clearly the place to do that. So we're so proud to be entering this amazing ecosystem here tonight with this launch event, and we plan to be here for many, many years to come.
And as we wrap this up too, Zada, I'm going to leave you the closing word here. But talk to me, you mentioned the fund, talk to me about Dana Capital and really what kind of figures you're looking at and, what's the next step? What do you want to happen?
We are looking for real partnerships, real supporters of our capital, Dana Capital of $30 million. We are looking for development financial entities, private and public entities that support Dana and has a real partnership and a close partnership with Dana Capital to make this vision come true to the MENA region and not only in the Middle East. And what we are looking for now is the angel investors, the impact investors. Since we are very impact oriented, we are looking for people who share the same values or other values that promote our humanity to a better place and a better future.
So there's lots to play for, lots of tremendous opportunities. And I think at the very heart of everything you do, I think it's very clear, and we've heard it from all of the great guests that we've had speaking here, is you have their support. And with you three, I think at the helm, you'll certainly get there. So I really want to thank you, Zada, Shirley, and Katie.
I want to add something.
Please, Zada, go ahead.
Thank you. Since this initiative based on the name of a dear friend and my ex-co-founder, Dana George Salah, I'm taking this initiative as a personal mission, and I believe that the team, Shirley and Katie, they are a team of perfect women who can I trust, and we can make this initiative not only as a tailor-made accelerator, and not only an angel accelerator, and not only a fund, but a change maker in the region. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone that is supporting us, for all the support, for the three monkeys, and for you, and for everyone who's watching us today. I really, really, really appreciate you. Thank you. And may Dana's memory stay alive with us with this initiative. Thank you.
Indeed it will. I think an initiative with great heart and a tremendous future. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. And good luck with everything you're doing. Good luck in this very, very exciting venture. We're all here waiting for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there you have it, dear friends. Dana Accelerator moving at a fast pace with great ambitions for the future. Now, I think we all know the sustainability of our planet is everybody's responsibility. So we want to get everybody involved. We want you to be involved. So we'd love to hear more from you. So please, please keep in touch with us and reach out on our social media. The ladies they're easy to get hold of, and they'd love to hear from you. And of course, keep an eye out for new and exciting developments from Dana in the near future. So from myself, from Leah, from all of our great technical team here at Three Monkeys, it's been great to be with you and to bring you this great show, I suppose, the launch of Dana Accelerator. So I want to thank you for being with us, and stay in touch.